Hello and welcome. This is Michele Christensen of One Noteworthy Life, and this is a Plan With Me video for May of 2018. I'm recording this in OneNote for Windows 10. Now, I myself am an avid OneNote user, and I use OneNote to keep everything in my life organized and moving forward. I'm a YouTube creator, I'm a blogger at OneNoteworthyLife.com, and I host the OneNote Bullet Journal Facebook group. Now, I have already done the planning process, the transitioning from April to May. So this is more of a walkthrough. These pages are all pretty plain, so I don't really have any OneNote tips or tricks to share with you in this video. But I do like to do the process first and then walk you through it later because it takes some time and I like to put some thought and effort into it. And that's better done, off camera. So before we start, there's two things I want to mention. One is this video is happening a little bit late in the month of May because I had a video that I really wanted to do. I did a video on how to create an Ombre, which is a shaded from light to dark, an Ombre to-do list box in OneNote, and I just decided to bump the plan with me a few days later so that I could get that one done. The other thing is you'll hear me reference a few times in this video that my 2017 was very eventful and a lot of things kind of went sideways. Everyone's doing fine, everything's moving forward, all is well. It was just a lot of events that happened in one year. So I didn't want to have to explain that each time I reference it, so you'll know what I'm talking about. So the first thing I do when I'm transitioning from one month to another is I review the prior month. So this is one of my April goals, and I did split this into 4 different slides just for readability. Normally in my actual notebook, this would all be on one page, but it was too much for a video slide. So my first goal was to have a calorie goal of negative 110 per day on average. Part of this 2017, eventful year was that I had gained some weight. So I'm working on getting rid of that. And I'm excited to announce on this goal that I really nailed it. I way exceeded that, but definitely still in a healthy range. And I've lost several pounds of fat and gained some lean body mass. So I'm, really excited by that. Couldn't be better. So another goal for April is to continue to get my sleep on track. One habit I've been working on for a few months is to stop using my tablet before bed. And when I first started this, I was using it every night for about an hour a night. Now I'm down to hardly using it at all. And my goal for April was to use it only on Saturdays and then 3 other days per month. So I nailed that goal. I did Saturday in only 2 days. So I feel like with this particular goal that I'm almost done with it. When I first started, it was just a nightly thing. It was just turning into more and more time and disrupting my sleep. And now I feel like I'm almost done with it. Like I probably won't even need to track this or have this on my, monthly goals in a few months. So I'm continuing to track what time I get up and I keep dialing it back week by week. Around the middle of the month, I started paying more attention to my bedtime, which I hadn't been doing. When I started to dial back my wake-up time, I assumed that bedtime would naturally take care of itself because I would be tired. But probably like you, I have tons of things I'm really excited about, things I have to do, things I want to do. And so I would tend to stay up too late doing things. So I've started to set a target bedtime that works well with the wake-up time that I'm targeting. I've also started setting an alarm to remind me to start getting ready for bed about an hour before I want to get in bed. So that's been really helpful too. Another habit I wanted to start in April was to turn my phone to black and white every night at 9 p.m. Your phone probably has this setting too. It's in the accessibility section of my phone under vision. And you can, I wanted to screenshot it, but it won't show up for whatever reason. The screenshot's still in color. But I can turn the display on my phone to black and white. And I did this because I found that since I wasn't using the tablet, the phone was starting to tempt me a little bit. And I don't want to be using my phone as a toy in bed. And when I turn it to black and white, the phone becomes really more like a tool. It's something that I use when I need it, but it's not a source of entertainment anymore. And I was shocked to see how much I really like this. Once I started turning it to black and white, I rarely turn it back to color unless there's a specific reason, like if there's something with a picture or a video or a reason that I need to see something in color, I'll put it on color. But other than that, it's been in black and white. I feel like it's a lot easier to look at, and it's almost like the colors are like too bright or something. The black and white just, is easier to look at and feels a little more natural to me, as, if a cell phone could be natural. So another goal I had in April was I have this personal project, which is working on some bonds. And I got part 2 done, so I'm really happy about that. That was what I wanted to get done. I also want to work toward an end of day process. And as I mentioned earlier, I have been using an alarm on my phone to alert me when it's 1 hour before I should be in bed. And that has actually been really helpful because the alarm goes off and it's just very concrete. It's like, okay, time to wrap up what you're doing and start getting ready for bed. So that's been really helpful. I'm going to continue that. Another goal for April was to prune my daily setup. I feel like I spend too much time getting set up for the day each day, and so I'm working on making that faster. So one of the things I'm doing is I'm doing less prioritizing. I tag just a few critical items, and then it's sort of like everything else can just get done whenever. If it's not critical today, then I don't need to worry about it as much. So that's been helpful because all I really need to do then is like look at, the personal and work stuff and prioritize those 1 or 2 critical items, and I don't prioritize anything else. So that has shaved some time off my morning setup. Okay, content. I wanted to try for 1 video per week plus 1, which would have given me 5 for the month. And I didn't meet this goal, but I'm going to try it again next month. And I am still really excited about this because March was the first time that I met every goal on my editorial calendar. And I had been struggling since I started my YouTube channel and blog. I had been really struggling to fit all the pieces together into a comprehensive content management calendar for myself. And I feel like I have the system down. And then in March, I met my goals. And, I tried to up the ante a little bit, and I didn't quite make it. But, I'll just try again next month. I also wanted to launch the OneNote Pretty Pages playlist on YouTube, which I've done. And I'll link to that in the description in case you're interested in. But that's a playlist of different techniques to make your pages look really nice. I think OneNote doesn't get enough credit for being able to look really good if that's something you're interested in. And so I have a new playlist that just shows tips for making OneNote pretty pages. So one thing I noticed with my content is I did not finish scheduling and setting up my April until well into the month. And I think that really did not work well for me. I think it's one of the reasons I missed some of my editorial goals, and it led to a lot of scrambling and last minute stuff, and I really didn't like that. So I don't want to repeat that again. I'm going to get, when I do my content plan, it should be done, and whatever needs to be scheduled should be scheduled within the first few days of the month. Okay, so the next thing I do when I'm reviewing the prior month is I give myself a section called What Else? And this is just for random thoughts, ideas, things I learned, whatever, just kind of whatever changed the way that my month went. So early in the month, I had this thought that I need to start doing at least some of my planning at night. Before this whole disruption that happened in 2017, I was a major morning person. And I would be up before the sun came up and kind of jump right into the day. And I just seem to be waking up more slowly now. And so I think I would benefit from having at least some of my plans laid out the day before so that I could get into action before I'm even fully awake. So around the middle of the month, I made a note that I'm really enjoying focusing on making progress in small steps. It just really works well for me. And it feels like I'm making a lot of progress with very little effort, because these tiny little steps are very easy when you look at them one by one and take them over time. But in the end, they add up to a lot of progress. So it really works well for me, and I'm really enjoying that. Another thing kind of related to that is that I just do not respond well to pressure. I've known this about myself for a long time, but it felt really clear, and I wanted to put words to that. I don't like things that put pressure on me, and I don't like feeling like I have to do like a big, sort of force a new change to come into place. I like to just take things slow and easy. And, an example of this would be like many life or business coaches will say, to make like a public declaration of something you're going to do, like whether it's a new product you want to sell or, you know, a fitness goal or something like that. And having that public accountability would make you more likely to do it. And I got to tell you, does not work for me. I hate that idea. Nothing will sap the joy faster from something that I enjoy than putting a deadline on it. Like, I don't like to work under pressure. I don't like deadlines. And something that I would otherwise enjoy will be like, feel like a chore, and it'll feel like yucky because I'm working under pressure. So I like to not put pressure on myself when it's not necessary, and I like to avoid situations that cause pressure on me because it just doesn't work well for me. So another thought I had was that a lot of things that we do in life require like discipline and force. So you know, where that you really have to kind of buck up and use your sort of self-discipline to get through something. So I like this idea of working slow and steady and not putting unnecessary pressure on myself, because when I need that self-discipline and force to really force something through, I've got that energy available. So let's see, later in the month, I learned the term introvert hangover, and I am an introvert, which means, and I'm using that in the way that it was defined in the Myers-Briggs personality type test. Introverts draw their energy from being alone and, you know, kind of quiet time and that kind of thing, whereas extroverts recharge and draw energy from the company of other people. And yes, there's absolutely a spectrum with that, and yes, you can change and evolve as you go through your life, but they're just kind of broad categories that might help you to understand yourself better. So I'm not shy, by the way, or socially anxious or anything like that. I love to socialize. I'm very comfortable in social settings. I just, it just drains me. And when I have a lot of socializing, I need time to recuperate. So we had a day where we were out all day, and it involved multiple stops, multiple different social things and that kind of thing. And that day that I learned that word introvert hangover, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I have. So yeah, that was a good thing to learn. The next thing is I've been using the emoji that looks like a pointing finger to point to the first thing that I want to do in a day. So sometimes when I'm looking at things the day before and I think to myself, all right, that's the first thing I want to tackle tomorrow, I will put that pointer on it. And if you're using OneNote for Windows 10, you should be able to access the Emoji Keyboard by hitting the Windows key and the period key at the same time. So, as I mentioned, I've been using the critical tag in OneNote just for a couple of things that I do think are really high priority in the day. What I've stopped doing is trying to prioritize the rest of the things on that day's list. Once I do the critical things, I just pick something and jump into it because it's not critical. Nothing else is critical because I've already marked the critical things. And that's been really helpful because you can, at least I can, drive myself, you know, into loops just by trying to figure out what's the next most important thing to do. And I'd rather just have something done than have a perfectly ordered list. So another thing I've been doing is focusing just on what I can do, even if it's not a great effort at first. There's a lot of things in life that I find you just have to do it, you know, imperfectly, figure out how to do it, and then do it well or do it better. And I would rather have something done in a small or imperfect way than have something really big and really awesome but not done. So that's been working really well for me as well. Okay, so the next thing I do is I do a pruning update. So how did I do with pruning down the amount of things on my plate? So this was a win. Early in the month, there was a day I was going to go to Home Depot and start another home maintenance project or home improvement project. But I decided instead to finish the microwave oven. We have a microwave oven that had to be installed. And so that was a really good catch because normally I would have just been like, well, I had planned to do it this day. It was a day I was going to be out and in that area. And I realized it wasn't serving me to start another project when I already had a big one that was kind of halfway done. I also had another light bulb moment, which was that I have a lot of little tiny things piled up. And sometimes they're literally like a 2 or 3 minute job, but I have so many of them piled up that the new one comes in and it gets put on a list because I have other things piled up ahead of it. And I want to work on not having like 2 and 3 minute jobs piled up, because then you create a whole nother track of things to manage, which is this list of tiny little things. So that might be obvious to you, but it was kind of something I realized. I had to send a form to someone. And when I did it, it took just a few minutes. I had to scan it on my phone and text it to them. And it was on my list for maybe 2 weeks. So, that was just something that I noticed and I want to do better on. So the next piece in my April review is to look at my yearly plan. So this is what I thought April was going to look like when I set up my yearly plan. And one of the things I had was that I wanted to get away for a weekend with Chris, as my husband. And we thought we might get the house tented for termites. That's something that you have to do every so often in Southern California. And at the beginning of the month, I kind of just wasn't sure about doing either one of these. When I set this up in January, this seemed like the right priority, the termite tenting. And now that several months has passed, we had other priorities to work on, whereas the termite tenting isn't a priority. So I was kind of, giving myself the permission to not do that because we have other things that are higher priorities. And we also did not get away for a weekend. We've been making a concentrated effort to do things that are really easy to do locally. We live in a great area. There's so much to do, and we haven't really taken advantage of it that much. So we've been focusing on doing stuff that we can get to quickly and easily, things that take maybe just a few hours. So we did not get away for a weekend, but I do feel like the intention was met. We had some fun and we, did some fun things. So the final step, final thing I want to show you for April was my completed April calendar. And as you can probably tell, I don't use this for keeping appointments or anything like that. I sometimes do use it to track a habit, but the main thing I do is to write down something good that happened every single day. I really like doing this because it forces me to focus on the fact that good things are happening and I'm writing them down. So that's it for April. I'm now on to setting up May. So the first thing I do is look at the May section of my annual plan. So again, this is what I thought May was going to look like when I set up my annual plan back in January. So we were going to have a plumbing inspection, but it turns out we already took care of it. We had a leak somewhere and we have found that and taken care of it. So yay, that's already done. The other thing, and this was pushed off from a prior month, my mom has a website she wants me to set up for her, but we need to have some work sessions on it to figure out what has to go on it and stuff. And so it was going to be in May. I'm guessing that's not going to happen, but that's because of her schedule. But it is on my calendar. So even though this isn't done, it's not weighing on me at all because I know exactly where the project stands and I have a specific date on which I'm going to touch base with her. So yeah, I feel really settled and good about that. So May goals. Well, I'm going to up that calorie goal to negative 130 per day. I'm going to continue to get my sleep on track. I'm going to continue working on the tablet-free bedtime, and I'm going to go for this month is Saturday only, plus 2 extra days. The change I'm going to make, though, is I'm only going to track the times when I use the tablet. I really feel like this habit is almost done with, so I don't need to be tracking something that doesn't happen most of the time. I'm just going to track the days I use it. I've also set up tracking for wake up and bedtimes. So I'm going to keep dialing that back and keep observing and seeing what I can do better in terms of getting my sleep on track. But I have made progress since the beginning of the year. So I'm glad about that. So this bonds project, I want to get the 3rd part done this month. And an ongoing thing I've been working on is an end of day process. So I just want to have a process where I can feel like I'm done for the day. This is how I wrap it up. So that critical tag really helps because once those critical items are done, I know that anything else that's still on my list could not be done today. And I've also been setting an alarm for 1 hour before I want to be in bed, and that helps a lot too. So I'm going to continue both of those things. I'm going to continue to keep trying to prune my daily setup, and I do feel like I've made progress in that, so I'll share that with you in June's Plan With Me video. And I'm going to go with the same content goal, which is 1 video per week plus 1, so that gives me a total of 5 for the month. So the last thing for May is to insert my May calendar, and this is just a calendar I create in Excel using one of Excel's templates. And I save it as a PDF, and then I insert it in OneNote, and then I can draw and write on top of it and stuff. I already have some days filled in because we are in the month of May already. So that's almost it. I just want to acknowledge one final thought before we close it up, and that's that if you're getting the sense that this process of review and planning takes a while, I just want to acknowledge that there is some time involved. I've estimated that it takes me somewhere between 1 and 2 hours to do in total, start to finish. But it does get spread out over the month. Like I make notes as I go, and then the last few days of the month that's ending and the first few days of the next month, I do little bits and pieces here and there. So it's not like I need like a big block of uninterrupted time. But it is so worth it. It does take a little bit of time and effort, but it is really worth it. Like I'm actually seeing my goals happen, and I'm seeing myself make progress, and the things that I want are happening. So it's really, really worth it, just to invest that little bit of time. And also by writing it down, when I do start to have I feel like I'm wavering, or if I feel like I'm not making progress fast enough, I can just go right back and see all the great things that I've accomplished already this year. So yeah, I just want to encourage you to invest some time in this process, because I think it's really worth it. So that's it. I'm all set up for May. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section of this video, and I'll do my best to get back to you and help you out. And if you are watching on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up button so I know you liked this video. And if you want to see more videos like this, you can subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. It's been my pleasure to share this with you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.